Bună seara, dragi prieteni! Este marți, este ora 19 și așa cum v-am obișnuit, ne reîntâlnim la o nouă ediție a live-urilor noastre pe Humanco, creativitatea ca resursă importantă în adaptare. Vă spuneam săptămâna trecută, pentru astăzi am planificat o ediție internațională, vom călători așa pe glob, vom trece prin Polonia, vom ajunge în Brazilia, în China, unde e aproape miezul nopții, Germania, Turcia. Vom călători astăzi și vă mulțumim foarte mult pentru că veți călători împreună cu noi. Văd deja că foarte multă lume se loghează, se conectează la pagina Humanco și distribuie acest live pe care noi tocmai l-am început. Vă mulțumesc pentru asta și vă încurajez și în ediția de astăzi să ne trimiteți comentariile, întrebările pe care le considerați potrivite. Eu le voi prelua la un moment dat de pe pagina Humanco și le voi adresa invitațiilor pe care îi vedeți deja alături de mine. Am ales pentru astăzi o garnitură serioasă, vă spuneam, toți conectați la acest domeniu al psihoterapiei pozitive și din acest motiv, pentru că vin din toate colțurile lumii, vom face schimb în această ediție, vom trece în limba engleză, dar că le scrieți întrebări în română, că le scrieți în engleză, eu le voi prelua și le voi transmite către exact așa cum spuneam mai devreme. Așadar, nu vă mai țin în suspans, vreau să vă prezint invitații mei și să începem această discuție în această seară. Este vorba despre Patrycja BADECKA from Poland. She's coming from Poland, but she has Romanian origins.
Bună seara, salutare tuturor!
Dzień dobry, Patrycja, and thank you very much for being with us today. We also have Olinga RAFAT. She has German origins, but she's living in Albania at this time being. Thank you very much, Olinga, being with us this evening.
Thank you, Ovidiu, and good evening, Romania.
Now we go to China, in Shenzhen. Cherry Liu is there. It's almost midnight, so thank you very much, Cherry, for accepting our invitation for this evening, for being with us today.
Thank you, and good evening in Romania.
Ivan Kirillov, born in Russia, but now living in Turkey. Hello, Ivan. It's such a nice pleasure to see you again.
Bună seara.
Bună seara, good evening. And we also have Sam CYROUS from Brazil. Hello, Sam. Thank you very much for being with us today. And Richard WERRINGLOER from Germany. Thank you, Richard, as well.
So nice to be here with you. Thank you so much, Romania.
Dear friends, such a nice pleasure to be all together this evening, talking about creativity as an important tool helping us to adapt in those times of COVID-19 that we are passing. And I would like to start a discussion with you as a, let's say, continuation of the live we had last weeks. And our guests were saying somehow that if this virus, if this pandemic is just passing without changing us, without transforming us, without making us maybe a better version of ourselves, it means it was in vain. It was for nothing. And that's the first question I would like to address to you. Which way you feel that this situation changed yourself, and what are the resources, maybe the capabilities that you found in your inner self in those times, and you are ready to put them on the table and to use them to adapt? Olinga, please.
Yes, what are the resources and capabilities? I think the very, very essence of change for me occurred in the sense of just accepting whatever comes. Before, I was trying to really plan everything, to be very organized and so on. And I think this is kind of, it has changed a lot through the pandemic. I'm just taking things as they are, and I'm just trying to use everything that is around me to my current situation without worrying too much what is happening in the future. It's just not possible to foresee anything anymore.
Cherry, you feel those times more creative maybe, or you've discovered new things that you will use from now on?
I feel like I've gained a lot in the past few months. I feel like I just put everything, all the plan aside. I don't have any plan. I'm just in the moment. And on the other side, it just helped me to really have a long-term planning. You know, I'm just seeing things more. Like I'm not seeing I have to have a result or anything like that. I'm more like I'm planning for the long term. So I love it.
Patrycja, how is for you the situation?
Well, I realized, I knew it, but I felt it really strongly that the contact is really, really important for me. Yes, contact with my dearest one, with my other people, and I think the possibility of having contact abroad with, like now, today, tonight, I could see, you know, Sherry from China, Olinga from Albania, for example. That's amazing, and this what I've learned about myself is the capability to be flexible, to adjust to the situation from one side, from the other, something similar that Olinga said about the accept what comes, what life brings.
Ivan, you were mentioned just before us to go live that you are kind of used with this, let's say, lockdown situation, because for many years you are working from home, doing online conferences or trainings. How do you feel this time? Is it different from your previous experience? Did it brought something new to you? Did it transform you in a way that you would like to share with us?
So it's actually bring everything that I love. So which means no unpredictability. So like so basically it's perfect, because instead of expecting something that you already know, you expect always something new, and it creates a nice time for discipline and a nice time for responsibility, which I think is the core of creativity, if you want. Because if you're not disciplined, you cannot create anything but poop, maybe.
That's very interesting approach, to add discipline to creativity. Is it something, a dimension that it's present in your life in general, this discipline, or it just came as a capability?
It's something that I love. So it's something that I love, but in this time it's come more, because as you can imagine now, people because I'm introduced myself to all over the world, and I have clients all over the world. So as you can imagine now, this pandemic, people go crazy and companies go crazy. So I have a very high demand on helping people in different situations, starting from the like people who just at home and healthy and afraid to get sick. So ending to the people who are sick now. So, but stay at home. And so we work a lot with the doctors who actually work with the COVID people. So it's like really, so it's, I have to be disciplined. Otherwise I can't fit 48 hours in 24. It doesn't work then.
I remember last time we've met in person in 2014 in Turkey, you were talking about your project, stress surfing. How is it now during
basically
pandemic?
It's a perfect time for stress surfing.
Exactly. How is it going? How we can surf the stress?
So it's actually very interesting, because like, so if you, so the idea of stress very simple, as you feel an emotional response to anything, like for instance, pandemic. So you should question yourself, first of all, what exactly you're reacting on, what's changed. So is it change itself, or it's fear of death, or it's care for other people? And then you need to understand why it's so important for you, which needs its triggers in you. And then like in whatever situation, you have everything you need to meet any need, and you just need to focus on the situation and see, so, okay, now what do I have to meet my needs? And it's quite simple though. So 3 steps: what triggers you, what needs, and what you have to meet these needs. Very simple.
Very disciplined answer, as you can see, in totally accordance with what he said earlier. 3 steps, follow the steps, and the situation is very simple. But I would like to build up a bit on this idea, and to go from stress surfing to life surfing. It's what Richard created in a video he was just distributed on his Facebook page. And please, Richard, let's try to develop this Ivan's idea.
Well, actually, that's what we've been doing the last couple of months. It's been changing the whole time. Since I'm a medical doctor as well, I also was very much involved in the COVID testing. We had lots of patients in the beginning with different infections coming in. And it was, we were very lucky that we'd already at an early point got our equipment together, the masks and everything we needed, the whole exposure unit. And so it was a very connected time with our team, but also with our patients. We had so much help from around, from the family, from the patients, since equipment was rare, and although we had some, we didn't know if we would get some more in the future. So everybody was very creative, making us visors, sewing some masks where we could put some filters from some artificial filters into the masks, and it was a very, very adventurous time. And then it slowed down again. We were very, very lucky actually in Germany, and since we had already seen what had happened in Italy and in Spain, and so we had time to prepare. And we were very lucky that we were able to go outside. We didn't have to stay inside. We just weren't allowed to get into groups, and later on the shops were closed. But it was actually a very exciting period. Creative,
so surfing the waves.
Surfing the waves of the, exactly, surfing the waves of stress that we had, putting it into our life, changing everything, getting the equipment together, and keeping the team together, keeping everybody healthy, getting the people tested and into hospital that had to go there, and yeah.
And for you, Richard, what does this, let's say, sea of life, if we are going on this metaphor, brought to your shore? What you've discovered about you in terms of creativity in those times of pandemic?
That we have a lot of courage within ourselves, because we saw these pictures earlier, and that we can really affront these difficulties, and that we can do that with very big stamina, and to do that as a team. And that I'm very, very happy with how people reacted, that they were not very much panicking, actually. When the lockdown came, we've also seen in different polls that happiness actually went up. It didn't go down. People had time for themselves. They had time to do things that they'd never done before. And there were many initiatives within the community for helping one another, for making these masks, for bringing food to people that were sick, for doing the shopping and all of that. And it was...
So we are talking also about solidarity, about human acceptance. Even though we are physically in distance, we are very close, very well connected. Even I think this screen that we are seeing, all of us right now, it's a proof of that, right?
Exactly.
I think people...
Please, Ivan.
I think people are best when they limited resources and lack of security, because then they take responsibility, because otherwise we tend to expect like things from the government, from somebody, something like, I don't know, miracle. But when we know that there is no help out there, so we just go and do. And we become like together. So I think we need to have some shake like this, like once in 3 years or something, to remember that.
That was one of the conclusions in our previous live episodes, that when it's hard, when it's very difficult, when we are facing danger, tragedy, we start to move, we start fighting, we start to develop, and we also protect ourselves and the loved ones. Let's go in Brazil to Sam. And once again, Sam, thank you very much for being with us today. What have you discovered as well in terms of creativity about yourself? I know, and last night I was watching your videos and your TED speeches on storytelling, on elevator speech. I have to admit it was quite difficult, because I didn't have English translation or something, but I know that you have some ideas in terms of creativity that would be really nice to share with us, please.
Okay. First of all, first of everything, thank you for the invitation. Good evening or good afternoon to all our Romanian spectators. Well, I have learned two things, that small things change our personal lives. I have learned something as silly as cooking. I'm almost 40 years old, and the only thing I knew how to do was eggs. I do great eggs, different kinds of eggs with lots of different things, but that's all.
And what you added now to your recipes?
Now I can do rice from many different kinds of rice, meats, different meats. I've been watching videos on how to cook with different sauces and make the sauces, and I learned how to cut a potato. So lots of things that when I'm doing a PhD program on psychology and storytelling, and we never have time when we work the mental world, and that's all that most of us do. But the small things are important for us. But I think the main thing are when we do great things for others, when we transcend our own selves, and transcend our own selves from where we are, and to become what we can be, what we should be. And resilience has everything to do with it. How are we individually dealing with what is happening? Closed in our apartments. In the last, 80 days maybe, I have left the apartment twice. And I live in a tiny little apartment in the middle of Brazil. When I say middle of Brazil, it's the center of Brazil, geographical center. So, but the most important is transcending our own selves in order to help others. And when I hear, you guys are right when you say crises make us be more creative and change things, and we assume responsibility. But living in a place like Brazil, I see so many differences that maybe some of you can see as well in your nations. So many differences from the extreme poor to the extreme wealth, that we have to do something to help people. And I think the best thing I have been doing with my creativity is helping people reflecting on what is going on, helping them assume the responsibility we have been talking about, but also helping other people who need basic stuff like food. Like we didn't have the scarce of paper toilet like in Australia, but we don't have food for many people. We don't have people working, so they don't have money to go buy things. And amazingly, at the same level, we have so much empathy in Brazil. Brazilians are known to be empathetic with everyone and love everyone, and everyone love them. But we are a nation of capital as well. The prices, they were like this, and they went right above to the roof in so many different things. So I think the main thing I've been learning is not how to cook, but how to help others that before they were invisible, and making them visible again.
So then again, this concept, this idea of solidarity, besides your personal gains, let's say more time to work for your PhD, and also potato cutting skills, which is great.
My PhD has been forgotten.
Okay. As you mentioned earlier, I would like to go a bit deeper into this discussion. Actually, it's an idea that Olinga gave to us just before the live started. Let's have a look on the balance model a bit, right? And for those of the viewers not knowing too much about the balance model, it's, let's say, a core concept of the positive psychotherapy, talking about four dimensions, for core dimensions of our life: the body senses dimension, the work and performance dimension, the contact and relationship dimensions, and future fantasy spirituality dimension. How, guys, do you feel in those times that maybe this balance changed? Maybe before it was unbalanced and now you feel it more stable, or the other way around? How do you feel it now? Would you like to share with us, Cherry, maybe? And then Ivan, I saw him announcing himself, please.
Okay, I think my life has always, quite balanced. But during this time, I think I have more balance because I have more time. So I'm just looking, when you were talking about that, I'm just looking. I think in all areas, I'm putting like enough time and attention in that. So for me, they are quite balanced.
You are also, I didn't say this before, but you are also specialist in trauma,
Yeah.
in stress management. That's another subject where we have guests with expertise. How we can be balanced, how we can gain this balance in those times. What means balance to us? People, yes, in those situations of facing trauma.
Okay, you know, actually, you know, I was trained as a completion process practitioner. It's a trauma resolution. You just go directly into the body and feeling. So I think everything is about ourselves. I mean, I experienced the huge fear as well, especially in February because we started earlier. And I just, you know, I went into the fear. And I just discovered something amazing, actually, because I was, you know, in extreme fear. I asked for support. I was working with my CP practitioner. I was working with my classmate in the US. And then I found out, you know, after I integrated part of the fear, and we discovered that actually my fear is related with my leadership, because I gave up my leadership. So the fears helped me to integrate this part. Oh my God, this is the part I gave up. Now is the situation actually is helping me to get that aspect back into myself. So I'm just integrating myself. So like after that, like, oh, the fear just disappeared. It's not there anymore. So it's really all about ourselves, especially when the things we have toward the government, because nowadays, especially in this period, a lot of time, people have a lot of anger or, you know, whatever emotion towards the government. The government are authorities, they're just representatives of our parents. So I think if we really take the time to really look within and integrate, we gain a lot, really. And I think this is a, you know, critical time.
That's a great idea, Cherry. What I hear you saying somehow that fear is connected in your case with the leadership, and somehow that you had the chance to discover that actually we are the ones we are waiting for to save us. Not others. We should not wait for others to save us or to transform us or to develop, but we are those ones we are waiting for. Just pass the mic to Ivan, please.
So it's actually very good things speaking about balance model and how people react, and speak about creativity, which is often kind of misunderstood as spontaneity, because spontaneous natural reaction in all 4 areas is very damaging. Like, for instance, the spontaneous reaction of many people, which I observed on my patients, like in the body area, was like so to lock themselves, just to focus on their body, to listen to every symptom appearing, and actually create a lot of anxiety. So, and so counterintuitive thing would be to focus more on building up the physical resilience, on doing actually more exercises, getting a healthier food instead of sleeping in a fridge. So it's like kind of, so and this is more creative, this is more responsible response, so to say. So the same thing in a productivity area, because like many people took it, oh, it's a good vacation. So, but the problem is that all like algorithms that they had, like the very simple routines, was broken actually. So, and without those routines, they don't know what to do. Even the stress creates the energy for them, they kind of misuse it. And it's again create a lot of anxiety and a lot of health problems. So instead of this, a counterintuitive would be to organize your life very tightly, very like constructively and quite tightly, so you know what to do. So the same thing in relationships. Intuitive think is usually like the people become very vulnerable, and they like very conscious, like if somebody offends them, or like if somebody care of me or whatever. But more proactive, more creative answer to this, and actually more healthy answer to this, is to think, how can I protect other people from my emotions, from my stresses, from my impulses? So how I can protect them instead of protecting myself. And it gives you much more feeling of ownership of the relationship, and actually people like you more. So as the same thing in a fantasy area. So the natural tendency is to check every hour how many more people infected with COVID, yes, and who died, and like all this tragic reportage from all over the world. But it's totally destructive. So instead, it would be better to like limit these resources, to say like World Health Organization and the local authority, because you need to follow the local rules. And instead of looking for these tragic things, maybe to look for the people who actually deal with this creatively, so to say, for the doctors, for the people who create new businesses in this situation, not like some mentioned like raising the price, but really creating something more useful for people. So, and I think these like 4 areas gives us a good understanding how we react and how we destroy ourselves, and at the same time, how we can build ourselves. So, sorry, it took too long, but
no, it's perfect. It's perfect, Ivan. Thank you very much for this very valuable input. And I told to my guests today, to you guys, that I won't like to do it like in school, just to nominate one of you one by one to answer the questions. So I got an idea now, and I would like to try it. Ivan, who's the next person you choose from our screen that you would like to go deeper on this idea that you launched?
So I think Patrycja. So we can like so I didn't hear too much from her. So I would like
Patrycja
to.
BADECKA, La Polaka, because by the way, she's also known as La Polaka, the Polish girl. By the time you were living in Ecuador, am I right?
In Ecuador, yes. I've been living there for 5 years, so that was a really great.
So La Polaka, what's
La
your
Polaka.
input?
Well, if it comes to me, well, I will start from myself. That I see that the balance model, it changed a little bit during that pandemic situation. I put a lot of energy before to the area of performance, to the area of achievement, to the area of, I worked a lot, yes, and I was fantasizing a lot. So that area of creativity, intuition, it worked really quite well. But because, like you said, Ivan, that it's only 24 hours we have during the day, so you know the time was limited, so it was like shorten the area of contact and area of the body. So right now, when I had a little bit more time, because I don't need to travel, I can do my work from home, so I could have this time to be in contact with my dearest one, with my friends all around the world. I could do something, you know, to a little bit work out with my body, to change the diet. And this is how it worked for me. As I observe within my patients, it's somehow similar that some of them, they took a chance, they used this crisis as a chance to invest much more energy in those areas that they were not invested before.
Thank you very much, Patrycja. Who you pass the mic to?
Who wants to talk?
It's Olinga, Richard, okay. Sam as well.
So okay, let's ask Olinga, because she didn't speak too much as well. So.
Okay.
Please, Olinga.
Sure, I'm catching the ball. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I think my balance model hasn't changed so much during the lockdown. There's always been, like Patrycja just said, too much focus on the achievement area, and also, well, body senses and future fantasy more or less in equilibrium. And then my neglected child was always the social sphere, the social contacts. And I feel very sad about it, because that should probably one of the major ones that you know really matters and so on. Anyway, I don't think this changed so much during the lockdown, but I think what changed is 2 things. First of all, how I approach the 4 areas, and I think here's when creativity also comes to play. And secondly, focusing more on my own self. This has always been something that has very much been neglected in the past. I was always all over the place, and I was usually the last priority. And I think the lockdown has just given me the time and the possibility to really invest more in myself and reflect more about myself and do things that for a long, long time I just had never the chance to do so. For example, as Sam mentioned earlier, learning to cook, he said, I'm almost 40 and now I'm learning to cook. Well, I have just turned 40 and now I have finally, for the first time in my life, learned how to cook, and also Albanian dishes. I've been living in Albania now for 28 years and there was never time to learn them. My mother-in-law is an excellent cook and finally I have started to learn those. So this is, for example, one of the areas that I'm very happy about. A new skill that I'm coming out of this lockdown with is knowing how to cook and knowing how to bake in a healthy manner. I've been trying to focus on health, on personal health a lot during this time. And one of the ways was, you know, eating healthy foods, cutting down on carbs and sugars. And because I love sweets and desserts, I was thinking, well, how do I combine these two things? And I started learning how to use things such as, I don't know, dates. You know, I'm like Sam, I'm Persian as well. I have German origin from my mother, Persian origin from my father, and we have dates in Iran, right? So what you do, you smash them, and then instead of sugar, you just use smashed dates for cooking. And just things like this, instead of flour, you can use almonds and you can grind them and then use them as flour. So a lot of ways to use this kind of creativity, combining health with pleasures of life, such as, you know, wanting to have nice desserts.
Actually, that's really great, you know, because you as a specialist in migration, in diaspora, for example, you tell me now that it's the time that this moment you were not migrating far away from yourself, but on the other hand, you were coming in this great meeting with you and with your inner side, and that you are not afraid, you are not scared, and you are not disappointed from what you found, from what you've discovered there inside.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I'm really not afraid of what I found. As I mentioned earlier, I had my 40th birthday during the lockdown just a month ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And thanks. And I was thinking, well, what do you do on your 40th birthday? You know, this is something I had planned since 1 year. And I wanted to take a big trip, like maybe, I don't know, go to Chile on the other side of the world and surf there for a month. Or I don't know, go to some place I've never been to before. I was having all these thoughts, and then the lockdown comes and none of that was possible to do. So I was thinking, how do I do this? You know, how can I make my 40th birthday special without any of my loved ones around, right? Because of the strict quarantine situation. I couldn't meet my parents. I haven't met them since 3 months, although they only live 22 kilometers away from me. What am I going to do? And so finally some idea came and I decided, oh, let me make it very meaningful. I'm going to write my will during my 40th birthday. So the moment, I'm going to commemorate the moment that I came out of my mother's interior into this world. I want to actually think about the moment that I'm going to pass from this life into other life, and making it meaningful. And I invited my family to join, and we had a Zoom kind of equivalent meeting. For half a day, we were just together, you know, looking through different ways of will writing, having a little workshop. So I was together with all my loved ones. It was very, very beautiful and in a very meaningful way. And I don't think I'll ever forget this birthday. I think it was the best of my life so far.
That's an amazing thing, and I will come back to it a little bit later on. But now I would like to ask you, Olinga, who's the next to speak, Sam or Richard?
Because I know Sam for such a long time, I'm going to give the floor to Richard. I have to decide between Persian and German, and both of them are my origin. But sorry, Sam, I'll go to my place of birth.
Anyway, Sam is going to speak as well, but now it's Richard's turn.
Richard.
Yeah. So I have to say this period has actually been a big present to me. Many things have changed. Many things have been very different. I've always been very much in balance in all 4 areas of my life. Of course, in the beginning, it was a shock, scare there, but and also parts of the 4 dimensions collapsed, we could say, for a couple of days, since no more dancing, no more going to the theater, no more having fun with friends and all of that immediately. but that changed very quickly. I got very much into yoga. I talked to people on FaceTime that I hadn't talked for so long. I'm in a yoga teacher program at the moment, did a lot of exercise for that, started making videos, first in Spanish, now in English, for positive psychotherapy. And it's been very creative, gotten to know the whole region here, practiced my spirituality intensely as well, and coming to myself at the same time, connecting strongly with my patients, and was a big chance actually for my life. And we'll see what more will come.
Sam, your turn now. Thank you very much, Richard, for this valuable input.
Well, I've been thinking, and actually Olinga helped me when she said, I'm passing to Richard, because I've been thinking what to answer. Perhaps we shouldn't, I don't know, sometimes I think maybe we shouldn't strive for balance. We should be thankful for the unbalance in our lives, because the unbalance helps us.
Nice one.
It is dynamic balance.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
It's the dynamic of not being balanced that makes us move towards something better. As you mentioned, I'm a storyteller. I work with TEDx. I'm a social entrepreneur, as you probably noticed from my last talk, my last words. And okay, that's lots of things I do on the more future dreams area of the balance model. But I've noticed that perhaps all of these are, I don't know, ethereal perhaps. I work with meaning of life. There's something like, wow, what's the meaning of life? That's the biggest question of all. But perhaps, and that's a migration I've been doing in this time of COVID-19, of these lockdowns or pseudo lockdowns in Brazil, to go to achievement level, and how to make all of this that I do, how to plan them, how to organize them, as Ivan said, how to make it all systematic and organized so other people can learn from it. Other people can become social entrepreneurs as well. Other people can give talks now with this new technology that actually existed for, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, and we're using it now. So I'm more in these two levels, the future and the achievement. The contact, I don't know. I've seen Olinga and Ivan, I don't know. Olinga, I saw you maybe 3 years ago, right? In
3.5 years ago in Chile, exactly.
Yeah. Ivan, I last saw him 15 years ago, perhaps. Contact is happening, but I don't know if the Latin side of me is happy with this as contact. So I don't know if I would call it contact and relationship. And body, I don't know if it's good news or bad news. I'm the 2 or 3% of people in the world that are getting thinner and thinner with the COVID and the lockdown. I lost 7 kilos, perhaps. I don't know if that's good or bad, honestly. So I would say I'm more into moving from future and dreams to achievement, to help people achieve the reflections on dream and future.
I think you all agree that a good word to describe this screen, this picture we have here, it's diversity. Your origins, your countries, your past. For example, as I mentioned, we have La Polaka having Romanian origins. We have Olinga living now in Albania, but with German origins. Both Cherry and Sam are from different countries, but connected to Europe and to the European context. I know Richard also has experience in Switzerland, and Ivan, as I mentioned, he was born in Russia and raised there, now living in Turkey. And I would like to ask you guys, besides this diversity, we have seen that solidarity in this situation, it's universal. It doesn't care, and nobody cares where are you from, because all of us, we are facing this danger, because all of us we are facing this situation. Solidarity, it's something that I've seen in those times being universal. in individual relationships or in small groups, but also, let's say, going bigger, right, at national levels. For example, I cannot forget this news I've seen when Albania, right, Olinga, sent help to Italy. Albania sent help to the European Union, even though it's not a member of the European Union. I remember as well when Germany took infected people in order to help them to recover from Italy, transported by planes in order to help them to recover in the hospitals in there. And I would like to ask you guys, about, because you have this experience of the multiculturality, let's say, do you think that creativity, it's cultural dependent? It's a cultural dependent construct or dimension? Is it different creativity in Brazil from example in Russia, or from the one in Albania or in Germany or China or Poland? What do you think?
Yeah.
Please, Sam.
I think there are two movements at the same time: creation and destruction, integration and disintegration. Creativity comes when chaos is established most of times. Not all the time, but many times. And we have the two movements, internationally speaking and locally and humanly, individually speaking. We have people helping each other, but we have people that are trying to do their best to survive, ignoring the other and mistreating the other. And we see the two movements all across the world. It's not only politicians. It's not only extreme right or extreme left or extreme up and down. It's not that. We see the two movements. I think that creativity and the capability to imagine bad things, what I have read, the creativity for the dark side, as some people call it, is present all across the world. How we implement the creativity is our responsibility. And maybe you didn't mention, perhaps you don't know, I'm actually a Portuguese citizen. So I'm European as well. Maybe Portuguese way of thinking is more linear and Brazilian way of thinking is more flexible. And it has advantages and disadvantages, but they're both creative in their own ways. The thing is how we use our creativity, to make a better world, not only in the pandemic we live in, but in general. How we assist others, how we with creativity, we assist the development of solidarity, of empathy, of connections, of what makes us really humans. And that's something perhaps we should talk more about all across the world, not only here, but everywhere. How to use our creativity individually and internationally to help others. I don't know what you guys think.
Common language, you say,
Sure.
somehow, right?
Creativity would be our common language, perhaps.
Please, Patrycja.
In Poland, we have such a saying that need is a mother of the invention. So I'd rather think that the need, that the creativity derives from the need. We have said, or we feel like we are lacking of something, yes, or we need something. We have some kind of deprivation, or there is a chaos, yes, all around. And then, as a human beings, we have a need to create, to change, to invent something new, something that is valuable. Yes, and this is some kind of thing on the personal, as a personal capability. But from the other side, there is that kind of creativity connected with the culture. Yes, because we can see it in the art, in the music area. Yes, and it's connected with the history, with the individual history of every country, with the past. If we had, I don't know, I think about the Poland. Yes, when we experienced communism, we experienced war, we experienced partitions, so a lot of repression time. So we need to, we were in need to find a solution to express ourselves as a Polish people. And I think as a nation, we are extremely creative. We have such a saying as well that Polish people can do things. Yes, if Paul wants, he will do it. Yes, no matter what, he will find a way, like a clever, smart way to in order to survive, I guess. Yeah.
Please, Ivan.
If I would believe in paradise or heaven, so I would choose to go to hell.
Why?
Because it's not interesting in heaven. It's not much problem. It's not much suffering. It's not much discomfort, and then it's not happiness, because so you only become happy for a long time, not for 3 minutes when you get something. When you get something, you're happy for 3 minutes. But you only become like really happy when you strive for something. So satisfied needs are not motivating. Satisfied needs, one of the reasons why I moved to Turkey, so it's because I become too much established in Moscow. Everything was too simple.
How does this connect with the discipline you were mentioned earlier?
So perfectly, because creativity takes 3 things in my understanding: problems, house and distraction, and discipline. Because when there is like house and distraction and problems, there are 2 types of people, just like Sam mentioned. So one type of people, they like are looking for like what I can get for myself, how I can survive, and basically those people are most unhappy ones, and they die first. So this is the thing. Why they die first? Because they kind of, so the area, when you think about yourself, when you think I am special, when you think you don't understand me, you are wrong, and this kind of thing. When you separate yourself from surrounding, the areas of brain activated, the exactly same areas which are activated when you're depressed and anxious. And it's evolutionary, because we are people, we are very weak creatures. I'm not very romantic about this solidarity thing. I think we come together in order to survive. And this is how we get pleasure of togetherness, because it's security. So and it's really, so, and those people who are get together in order to survive, and who take in responsibility and doing something instead of expecting, they become really creative, because they organize people, they get some knowledge from the different sides. So your question was like what culture and like creativity thing. I agree with Sam. So we have slight differences, but I think where creativity really comes from, it's from the capacity to get to other cultures and to other points of view, and to accept them, not as stupid, which we usually tend to do. So if you're not thinking like me, then you are stupid. So, but consider that those people also try to survive, and this is their survival mechanism for centuries. So it might be something smart there. So, and then when you take some idea from China, some idea from Russia, some idea from Brazil, then you have a good material for creativity. Then you have need.
Put together, and as we mentioned earlier, common language, right? This is what you're saying.
Yeah,
common experience.
So you need house problems, you need other people to learn from, and you need discipline to actually do something.
Great input. Great input, very clear, again, very in 3 steps, very well mentioned. And somehow you also answered the question we had in the last meeting, and I want to take advantage of your expertise, because someone asked how we can organize a good leadership in those times. And all of you are people working with teams. So what would be your ideas as answering to this question, to this concern that it was addressed last time? And Gabi, whom our colleague pointed out right now on the Facebook page. What ideas do you have, guys?
My idea is very Russian.
Please share it with us.
Again, strict discipline for everyone, but at the same time giving people freedom to make mistakes. So, and I think this is 2 recipes, because like so basically it's a trust for capacity to people like to correct themselves, to optimize things, because I think the best thing when people make mistakes, because if you don't like jump on them at this moment, so what they usually do, they try to correct themselves, because no one likes to make mistakes. And if you push them too much, don't push them too much, but at the same time, like give them a discipline, a clean order, and short time. It's important short time, because when you have too much time, you don't work. So, and then it works.
Is it similar, Richard, to the German model? What Ivan is presenting us now?
I think we're closer also to the Swedish model, which gives a lot of freedom. And we had a long time, a lot of freedom that we didn't have to wear masks. And it worked very well, actually. And I'm very astonished how people just use their common sense. Also not wanting to get sick, and at the same time not wanting to give other people the sickness, the disease. So they kept their distance. They didn't obey. They adapted to the situation, and the rules we got on top were actually only rules on top, and everything's been working very well. So it's also self-discipline. And of course, a lot of people, or some people, need the help from the state to, that they follow the rules. But at the same time, it's also an attitude that you have. And just getting into the feel of the situation. And if you look at Sweden, they might not be doing so well in everything, but considering that they hardly have any rules at all, it's very astonishing how well they're doing. And that gives us faith also in the human being, that if we're advised well, that we can, that we do not need strict authoritarian law, and that we can do it by ourselves. So I think that's also a model for the future, understanding and empathy, instead of just getting it as a law from above.
Jerry, what do you think about this this input? Does it fit with your model about leadership, about your questions that you raised in those times? How do you find it?
I think for me, like leadership is a little bit different for everybody, for every individual. So I think we really need to like look within to see what leadership really means. For me, it's like I know what I'm standing for. So sometimes I will like, okay, I'm not going to talk, but now I'm like, I'm not just talking for myself. I'm actually representing the people like me. Like some people, they don't have a voice, or, you know, so I'm not just representing myself. So I gotta, you know, speak my voice and give the people their voice, you know, to be heard.
Okay, and we are somehow going through the end of our discussion today, and I really want to do this, let's say, exercise or situation that I imagined for those times. And for this, I would like to divide you, let's say, into two groups: the group of the ladies and the group of the gentlemen. And I will explain you later on why I did this. But first of all, without having any information that Olinga did that great thing with the wheel for the birthday, I just want to ask you, what would you like? So the ladies, the question is for you. What would you like to be remembered for in terms of creativity after you're moving into another world? Shall we start with you, Olinga, as you have a bit of exercise in this area?
Half a day.
It's actually an excellent question, and I don't think I got that far with my will writing yet. What would I like to be remembered in terms of creativity?
Or what would be the heritage you would like to pass to someone in terms of creativity?
I don't know. I just have this feeling that what is really important to me in terms of creativity is the idea of resilience. You know, I agree with what Patrycja said earlier about, you know, the Polish saying that need is the mother of invention. And I'm just thinking, yeah, what is creativity? It's the ability to actually draw, first of all, to be resilient and to draw from what you have available, from all the ingredients you have available to make a nice cake. And so, for example, in a lockdown situation, COVID now, yeah, I think this is what I would like to be remembered for, the ability to be resilient, to go out of this COVID situation happier and as a better person than before, and having made the best out of the situation with the resources I had available in the 4 areas of the balance model.
Thank you very much, Olinga. Who you would like to be the next speaker from your group of the ladies?
Sherry, why don't we go to you?
Okay.
Please, Sherry.
Okay. Actually, I've been thinking about creativity. I'm doing a lot of exercise to unblock my creativity. So I'm a meditator. I meditate a lot. For me, creativity is really not about me. It's about like I'm a conduit or the media, and through me, God's creativity is creating through me. So it's really not about me at all. And for me, a lot of my inspirations, ideas come from when I'm moving myself, like I'm removing myself from me, like I'm getting more still. A lot of times my creativity or inspiration come from the stillness when I'm meditating. So I'm just like, I have a lot of awareness just whenever my ego comes out, like, oh, I want to be seen, or I want to act out, or I want the recognition or stuff like that. I'm like, okay, remove it. Like, let me get back to the stillness. Let me remove myself from myself. So that's for me, I think, my understanding.
Thank you very much. Patrycja?
Well, what I would like to hear over my dead body is something like that. Oh, she lived a really creative life. Yes, passionate. She squeezed from the life every drop of the passion, of the activity, of the experience. And she really, really enjoyed the life. We would like to do it in that way.
That's great and optimistic and full of life, exactly like you are, Patrycja. And thank you.
Even in the moment of death.
Even that moment. And now I will switch to the gentleman group, because I know that you guys, all of you had the chance to know Professor Nosrat Peseshkian. And somehow I'm coming again and I'm saying this screen, it was somehow connected by him, right? All of us, we got in contact because of Nosrat Peseshkian, and we had this great and wonderful and full of dignity story of Manija, the wife of Professor Peseshkian, facing death, by the way. This lesson of dignity she gave to us when she decided it's the time to move in another world. And because you had this wonderful chance of meeting Professor Peseshkian, the founder of positive psychotherapy, I would like to ask you to present us in few words, for the last minutes we have for this meeting, the heritage in terms of creativity that we have nowadays, and we hope to pass it further to the next generation coming from Professor Peseshkian.
So for me, it's very simple, actually, because I remember, like, him always, whenever you present him a problem, any problem, he had this wonderful capacity somehow immediately, just really like an instant, come up with a capacity revealed in this situation and with the chances revealed with this situation. And I learned this from him, and for me personally, it's the biggest heritage. It's changed my life a lot. So like really see the resources in a situation and how can you use the situation. So I put it in my words more or less. So whatever happens, it's only a question how you're going to benefit from this. So, nice. But he was the best person. I champion in this. I don't know how he did this, but just like this.
Richard, you agree?
I agree, absolutely. And he also, what I'd love to hear him saying was, open your gate to fantasy. And if a person really opened his gate to fantasy, it was Nosrat. Just imagine the amount of books he wrote. It is just incredible. Just, he had every area of psychotherapy in there. He was working on the different areas of psychotherapy at the same time where different lineages of psychotherapy were working. So he had all of this already in one psychotherapeutic method. And he had the energy, he had the greatness to give everything out to everybody. Everybody got presents from him. And if they were cognitive mental presence in form of ideas or physical presence in form of books or papers or whatever, he was always such a giving person, and up to his last moment. And I remember even when he was just before dying, he called people to say farewell. He didn't tell them he was going to go right away or something like that, but he just gave another call, and then he passed away afterwards. And it was very, very touching. He was a great inspiration.
Thank you, Richard. Sam?
Well, actually, the first book I ever read in psychology was The Merchant of the Parrot, a great book written by him, very simple but very, very deep book. And I would be lying if I didn't mention his ability of telling good stories. Like, you sit with him, you ask him anything, he told a great story and made us think about it. And probably that was one of the greatest heritages I got from him. Learning how to tell good stories to my patients, my friends, my family. His diplomacy, as Richard said, he talked to everyone, every kind of people. But the thing I think was most valuable for me was his partnership with his wife. That I try to emulate every day with my own wife. And it's amazing how they were partners. They were best friends. You could see that from anywhere you saw them. And that's, for me, the biggest heritage.
Well, guys, please, Richard.
His combination of love and understanding, primary and secondary.
And pushiness. He was very pushy.
He was very pushy. Yes.
He was very pushy. Ivan, when you're going to write this article, so why in 1 month? Why not today? Yeah, tomorrow morning, please show me.
Yeah.
So that's how, and I understand now, Ivan, that's how maybe you learned discipline.
I have my father. So before Nosrat, I have my father as well. So, but Nosrat put a big input as well. So,
please, Richard, back to you. I'm sorry that we interrupted you.
No, I finished already. Actually, it's just his primary and secondary capabilities, his capabilities of embracing and understanding at the same time, and pushing, as Ivan said, pushing people towards their capabilities, but in a way, in a loving way that you felt forced, but lovingly. So, and it worked.
That's such a saying, follow your heart, but take the brain with you for this journey. Yeah.
Such a pleasure, my dear friends, to have you for this live today. And thank you very much for being with us, for sharing these nice inputs and also kind memories that made ourselves, I think, all of us quite emotional at the end of this video. I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you soon again. And thank you once again for accepting our invitation. And ladies and gentlemen, all of you who choose to watch us during this project, I would also like to say thank you to you. And don't forget, 2020 is the year of creativity at Humanco. So many other projects on this subject will come and will be available for you. Thank you once again, and have a great evening.
Mm-hmm.